In this video, I'm going to show you how I transformed a completely blank, empty white room into the set that you see behind me today. My name is Andrew Loringer, and I am the owner and founder of the #1 podcast studio in Miami, The Move Miami. If you're anything like me, you love a good shot. You love a good background and you love a good set design, but your home office or at-home studio just might not be giving off those vibes. If you have an empty room at home, a den, or an office, and you are looking to create something that's going to look good on webinars, on Zooms, or simply for creating content for yourself, such as this, from home, including reels, shorts, scripted ads, talking heads, VSLs, whatever you are trying to shoot, you need something that looks professional. But you may not want to break the bank. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I built this set that I am currently sitting in filming and how you can do the same. So when I first got into the studio, I immediately loved this corner. I don't know why, I just loved the depth to it. And that's the first thing that you're going to visualize. You're going to want to find your room, and before you even get into measuring, looking to buy things on Amazon or Pinterest or whatever you're doing, don't do any of that yet. I want you to sit in your room and visualize what this room might look like. Where do you want to film from? What do you want the backdrop to be? Once you start getting some ideas, you can then go on Pinterest, or you could find some creators that you're inspired by. You could take a look at our studio. You could find some other creators on YouTube or on Instagram, and you can get some ideas for your studio. Now, in this specific set, this one just kind of came to me. I've seen a couple of videos in the past where people had beautiful bookshelves behind them, or desks, computer screens, monitors, etc. And it really filled out the space, and I loved how it looked. But I really wanted that dynamic depth of field. And that's super important. If you're looking for that blurry background like you see behind me, it comes with a couple of things. But the first one, before we start even getting into the equipment and the lighting, is going to be your distance away from the object. This is called your depth of field. If I were to be another 6 to 7 feet back, you wouldn't see this as blurry as it is now because I'd be too close to it. Everything would be in focus. But because I am probably about 8 to 9 feet away from the wall, it's causing that blur that you see behind me. And that's super important for me. So if it's important to you and you want that cinematic feel, you're going to want to be a certain distance away from the wall. So start visualizing what that looks like. Are you going to have a desk like I do? Or are you going to be sitting in a chair and having a little bit of depth behind you? There's a plethora of different ways that you can accomplish this. Next, you don't just want a blank white wall. You want to show a little bit of texture. You can accomplish this by curtains, by wallpaper, by painting the room, whatever you feel inclined to do and what your budget will permit is going to be just fine. It's going to be specific to you, and that's cool. For this one in particular, I ended up blacking out the walls with a cheap wallpaper I found on Amazon. I'm not going to lie, this was a very time-consuming process. I think in total, it probably took me like 4 hours to black out this one wall, which I know is excessive, but I am OCD a little bit, and I have perfectionism syndrome, whatever that is. And so I didn't want bubbles, I didn't want lines. At some point, I realized that that's inevitable and there's only so much I can do. And the best part about having great equipment, which we'll get into later, is that you can kind of negate some of the bubbles, the wrinkles, and the lines that are caused by putting on the wallpaper by having good equipment. So with that being said, you probably can't tell behind me, but there are a couple of wrinkles. There's a couple of bubbles. You'll see them as I show some of the B-roll of me actually putting this whole thing together. And again, you can't notice any of that right now. And that is the beauty of lighting, equipment, aperture, and depth of field. So the next thing I noticed was that there was this really ugly closet door that I didn't want people to see. And if you're looking, you cannot tell that behind me there's a closet door because I covered it up with a black curtain, which solved my purpose of covering the closet without being too expensive. I think on Amazon, I got this curtain for probably only $20 or $30. So that was a great buy. I hung a curtain rod from wall to wall, hung the curtain, and I can easily access the closet when I need to or cover it up when I'm not using it. Now, for the desk that you see behind me, it was really important. I wanted a standing desk. When I'm in the studio all day filming, I am constantly sitting down. Now, I am getting up every once in a while to shoot B-roll for my guests and shoot photography, but most of the time I'm sitting down, and I wanted the flexibility when I'm working to be able to raise the desk, but I didn't want to spend a fortune. My last desk was an autonomous desk, and I think it cost me around $1,000. I wasn't really trying to do all that. At the end of the day, I ended up spending, I believe, about $550. or 600 bucks. I ended up buying a butcher block tabletop that I found at IKEA, a raising lowering desk frame that I found on Amazon, and I was all in for under $600, which was great. And I got the size that I wanted. If I wanted that exact same size by Autonomous, for instance, I probably would have ended up spending $1,400 to $1,600. So I saved about $800 to $1,000 by doing it DIY. And so if you want, take a look at how I built this desk. When I'm recording, I don't want you to see my papers everywhere. Generally, when I'm working, I am a mess. I might be a little OCD, but I'm not when it comes to my workspace. I tend to just be a total mess with papers and mail specifically, and I wanted a place to hide some of that. So I built these drawers that I also got from IKEA for a very reasonable price, and in those drawers, I'm able to easily tuck away all of my mail, my cables, etc., in order to give me that clean, beautiful look. Now, once I did that, I mounted my computer monitor and I wired everything up. I did a diligent job of doing some cable management, hiding all the cables and the wires in the background and making it look clean. But the set just looked plain. It looked like a black wall with a desk, and I didn't really love the look. So I've been recording with a camera for almost a year. In that time period, I have recorded over 1,500 podcasts, and oftentimes as I'm recording for my guests, I will tend to use trees and foliage that I typically get from IKEA in order to cover up things that I don't really like. So whenever I see a dead space, I typically like to fill it in with some plants. And these plants I found at IKEA. I think that they look amazing. I filled them in. I wanted to illuminate the background a little bit, so I found some lamps at HomeGoods. I think they were like maybe 40 bucks a pop, and I tucked those into the corner. But I really loved the look of seeing the plants illuminated from the bottom. So I accomplished this by purchasing some floodlights that I found on Amazon. Again, I think they were like 25 bucks for a set of two. Very, very affordable. And I popped those into the corners. Now, the reason why I love these lamps is because I can actually change the colors whenever I want. So for instance, right now I have a green, it looks beautiful. I could switch it up to a blue, purple. If I want to feel a little Miami, I'll go with the pink. I can go with red if I'm feeling a little moody, but I do love the green. I really think that it accentuates the plants and it really makes the colors pop. So once I put all this together, I had my completed look, but now it was to dial in the lighting. If you are trying to record at home, you may wonder what will set your footage apart from someone else's that knows what they're doing. You could have the exact same set that I have, but yours might not look this cinematic, and you may be asking yourself why. Well, it comes down to a few things. Number one, the most important is lighting. Lighting is incredibly important. For instance, in this exact set, I have a key light right here, and the key light is illuminating my entire corner of my face. So you're getting everything right here illuminated. However, it was causing a shadow side, which, I'm not into the dramatism of that, but it does create a very cinematic effect if you're looking for something like that. But I didn't want that shadowy side. I just felt like it was way too moody. So I accomplished filling that in with a fill light, which is by Amaran. So here for the key, I'm using an Amaran 200X, and over here, I'm using an Amaran 60X. So my fill light has one of these. It's not very soft. It's very harsh, in fact, but it accomplishes what it needs to, and I only have it set at 7%. So it's actually just giving me enough power in order to illuminate the shadow side, whereas my key light is on a very nice softbox by Aputure, and I believe this light is at around 32% right now. So it's giving me just enough. Now, these numbers are going to change and vary depending on your skin tone, depending on the shirt you're wearing. For instance, if I was wearing a white shirt, I'd be getting the reflection. So I may dial the key light down to a 15 or 20%. I may dial the fill light down to, for instance, a 4. If I'm wearing a black shirt, I might do the opposite. I might bump up the key to 50%. I might dial up the fill to 30. It just really depends. So you're going to want to play with your lighting in order to make sure that it is perfect for you. Now, on this specific set, I am shooting with an A7 IV as my main cam, another A7 IV as my side cam, and both of these cameras are amazing. If you're going to go with this Sony line in particular, the A7 IV series, be prepared to purchase fans, because if you intend on recording for more than 30 or 40 minutes, both of these cameras are going to overheat. If you're looking for a more cinematic option with a built-in fan, you could opt for an FX30 or an FX3. Now, generally speaking, I don't typically shoot on Sony anymore. I have migrated all of our recording over to Fujifilm. I love the Fuji line. It never overheats on me. The colors are beautiful. I don't have to mess with anything in post, and it just out of the gate is a much better camera in my personal opinion. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate from the Sony lovers for saying that, but it is what it is, to each their own. I have filmed over 1,000 podcasts in the past couple of months with the Fujifilm line, and I can tell you my guests absolutely love them. So with that being said, if you're gonna go for that, you might want to know about lenses. Lenses are going to be incredibly important, because you could build this beautiful set, then you could have wonderful lighting, but if you have the wrong lens on the right camera, it might look a little off. On my main shot, I have a 24mm lens, and I am shooting on a 1.4 aperture, which gives me that beautiful blurry look. If I had bumped up the aperture to, let's say, a 4, or if I had gotten a kit lens that comes at an f4, you likely would not see this blur behind me. It would just look more in focus. It wouldn't give that cinematic feel. Now on my Philcam, I have a 50mm Sony 1.8 aperture lens. This is an incredible lens. It obviously, you can see by the quality, it is amazing, and it's very affordable. I think this lens was only around $200. I will put the link in the description for all of these components. However, I will remind you that if you are going to go with this specific Sony line, you're going to need to also invest in some fans. I cannot stress that enough. You do not want to be filming midway through and realize that your camera is off because it overheated. Trust me, I've been there. It's not something you want to experience. Now, for microphones, you could go with an array of microphones. Now, typically in the studio, I'm using a Shure SM7B with an XLR that is running into a Rodecaster Pro 2. But in this specific set, since I want to show you what you can accomplish on a budget, I am using a DJI Go microphone. This is a brilliant lav mic, and if you really want to look professional with it and clean it up a bit, you can even run a lavalier on a wire through a turtle and just go ahead and stick it in your chest and hide it underneath your shirt. There's a lot of different things that you can do. However, on this one, I'm just ripping it to the camera and I'm showing you what you can accomplish. Now, as this progresses, because every single set is always a progression, you're always going to find some new creative way to dress it up, to make it look better. For instance, on this one, I'm already thinking of floating shelves that I want to put on the wall and some foliage, some more plants that I'm going to dress up the set with in order to make it look better. But this is version 1. Now, version 2 might come with a TV with some Fujis, because again, like I said, I love shooting on Fuji now. I'm probably going to upgrade this set. I may even incorporate some additional lighting. I might do another key light. I might do an additional fill light over here. I'm for sure going to implement hair lights in the back. If you're interested in learning more about lighting setup and what that looks like, I will have another video for you. But the purpose of this video today was just to show you what you can do at home on a friendly budget. If you're looking to build an at-home studio or something in your office that looks professional and really takes your Zoom or your webinar or your content for social media to another level, this is as easy as it gets. So if you're interested in learning more about lighting, cameras, audio equipment, set design, or building out a studio, hit subscribe, leave a comment if you're interested in learning anything else, and I will see you on the next one.